This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to your sunrise safari. My name is David Hancock, and on camera we've got BK. And our plan of action this morning is to slowly work our way over to Chitwa, see if Kuchava and her cub are still there in the tree. Also, we're going to spend just a little bit of time this morning with Tristan trying to see if we might see Tingana's tracks. He was spotted last night by another vehicle, so after drive it ended, so we want to see if we might pick up on him. It'd be lovely to see Tingana. And I also believe there's some lion audio. I haven't heard anything yet, but apparently someone's picking it up on the dam cam, so lots of excitement this morning, some energy to get us going on this cold morning. It is very cold, a lot colder than normal. Our cold front has hit us, so we all wrapped up. And remember, the first 45 minutes of this drive is for the kids, so please send your questions, kids, to kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. We'd love to hear from you. And it's a good start. Here are the tracks. Are these Tingana's tracks? Let's see. Can you see them, BK? Right on my right hand side here. Well, that's great. That's a great start. We're going to carry on these leopard tracks. While we do that, let's send you to Eric in Ngala.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to And Beyond Ngala. My name's Eric, and we've got Owen behind the camera, as always. This morning, we're hoping that we're starting off on quite a good and positive note. I came to pick up Owen, and at about, I think it was just before 6 o'clock, around the camp, we heard a leopard rasping and calling. So we've been trying and find it. We haven't seen any tractor signs yet, but we've been stopping and switching off, and at about 20 past 6 we heard what sounded like a whole pride of lions calling in this area. And so we decided to change our plan a little bit and see if we can maybe try and find these lions for the morning. We were driving down and we saw tracks on the road to the right of us, and they were heading down in this direction. So we came to check down towards the river, which is to the left of us, and to check this road. We haven't seen anything yet, so I'm hoping they would have moved more forward or more west in that direction. Nice big open patch that we're going to go and have a quick look at. See if they might be lying down waiting for the sun to warm them up. But it's amazing, within 20 minutes, leopards calling, lions calling, all probably within about a kilometer radius of one another. So I'm hoping we get to catch up to at least one of them for the morning. Sweet history, we're off on an adventure for sure, and this is the best thing about the morning, is putting all of these puzzle pieces together. We just saw a beautiful, is this okay? Oh, just to watch the sunset, I mean not the sunset, the sunrise. Also, I mean, it's important to just take these moments in the morning to stop and spend some time listening. And these lions called about maybe close to 15 minutes ago now, so they could be calling again anytime soon. It might be one of their last calls of the morning, and so it's nice just to listen for the lions calling, the deep roar that we would probably be able to hear. Otherwise, other animals like impalas or kudus around the river, alarm calling, trying to give us any indication as to where the pride of lions is. So whilst we just listen for a little bit longer and see if we can hear those lions calling one more time, we'll send you across to Tristan, who I think is doing the same thing.
Well, good luck, Eric. Hopefully you hear them roaring again. We haven't heard our lions this side, although they were heard on the dam cam. I know some of the telluride was found to the north of us in Buffalo's Hook, but quite far north, so I'm not sure if their roars would have been caught on the dam cam or not, but we'll have a little look. As you can see, it's cold this morning. This is the first time ever in my entire time working at Wild Earth that I've worn a beanie on game drive, but my ears were cold this morning, so I was like, I'm done. I'm going to copy James, and so we're on a beanie schedule this morning. I'm sure we'll change it out just now. Anyway, before we get into all of the things that are going to happen this morning, my name's Tristan, as Eric mentioned. On camera I've got Alex. Alex, nice to have you on board again this morning. Hopefully we're going to have a productive one. There seems like a lot of things happening. Tingana was found last night, very close to Vuyatela Dam. He apparently was left just lying down close to Gari Cutline, but they said his general movement was south and towards the dam. Now, he didn't appear on the dam cam, so I'm hoping that's a good sign that he just got cold and lay up and decided to chill, and that we'll find him. And then there's also tracks. I just found tracks for what I think is Klalamba, moving over quarantine. So we're just looping around now to see if we can pick up either one's tracks on the other side. Well, that's the plan at least, but at least it's some kind of glimmers of hope. Always nice when we hear that there's certain animals that are around. The other bit of news is that Tundi was seen last night with only one cub, but before anybody panics, don't panic everybody, apparently it is an incredibly dense, thick area, and there very possibly could have been two. It was just as the sun was setting. The guys didn't stay long at all. They said it was thick, dense, they could hardly see what was going on, so they're going to go back this morning and check. So yes, no need to panic just yet. I'm pretty sure everything will be all right. She's apparently got a beautiful den just below Torchwood Dam wall by the rocks. Apparently very pretty down there. Now, I'm pretty sure I saw a leopard track going down that hill, and I don't see it here. Let me just double check this. Now, the reason why I want to check this carefully, because if it's for a female, it's very possible that it's Klalamba that's gone all the way around the camp. The last tracks I had was on Vuyatela Access, and then Dave says he's picked up tracks around, what's the name of that place? Quarantine. So I was thinking it was her. Now, where did I see this track? This is going to be a bit tricky. I've got to do this in reverse, and this road is so rough going down here. I hope I haven't gone mad and I'm imagining this, but I'm pretty sure I saw one coming down this hill. Alright, while I just check here and figure it out and have a little look and see if I'm going crazy or not, let's send you back across to Dave. I think he's still on the female tracks on the other side of the camp.
Well, we are just back on the southern side of quarantine, trying to still follow up on these leopard tracks. Looks like Tristan's got the same ones on Vuyatela Access, so maybe we can leapfrog together. She's going down into the drainage line, and hopefully we get a view. Otherwise we're going to make our way over to Kachava and Cub, but lovely to see so much leopard activity around here at the moment. Just gonna cut across here and see if she goes around this road. Seth, you're 12 years old. Welcome to the show. You've asked, when a leopard cub leaves its mom, will they recognize each other? They most certainly will. They won't forget each other. Oh, here's the track going back the other way, speaking of leopards, Seth. So, when a female leaves her mom, she'll actually generally stay in the same region. Often a mom will actually give her a little bit of her territory so that she can start getting established. And they'll often, over the years, still make contact. You'll still sometimes see them together, mother and daughter. So they do keep ties, generally. Male leopard, not so much. Generally when they get old enough, around their second year, when they old enough to leave their mother, 15 months odd, then they will actually go and find another area altogether and probably don't see their mother, but obviously in some cases they do. So not the most social of animal, but they will definitely recognize mother and offspring. But it sounds like Eric is getting very close to the line, so let's send you over to him.
Not something for you yet, just yet, but hopefully in the next few minutes. We're going back towards the tracks of where those lions were. And I was walking on the road trying to find if I could see any tracks, and then all of a sudden it just sounded like an explosion as these lions were calling all around us, and it sounded very... there they are. They're right here. Here we go. Awesome. So they were calling literally maybe 50, no, maybe about 100 meters from where I was walking around, and so I don't think I've ever jumped onto the vehicle as quickly as I did now. Awesome. A few of them look like they're asleep after calling so much, so maybe it was just the adults. There's a couple of cubs here. Don't quite know which lions these ones are yet. I'm just going to try and reposition and see if we can see some of these adults. I'll move a little bit more forward. Looks like there's a big cuddle puddle going along here. Oh wow, that's incredibly beautiful. Ooh, and we've got a male lion with us. Awesome. Linda, luckily, I mean, I was very close to the vehicle, so it wasn't too scary. But I mean, if they're calling, they didn't know that I was there, but it was pretty intimidating. Now look at this male on the left-hand side, that white one that we've been seeing so regularly. Not so white anymore. I mean, look at the color of his overall body. He's very, very red. It looks like they might have killed something last night. He definitely has been completely submerged in a carcass, and so they fed on something last night. I can't see any remnants of a carcass, so they probably killed it quite a long time ago and then maybe moved off. None of them are looking completely full, so it was probably something small. It could have been an impala, maybe a young wildebeest. I see the top of the mane of one of these males, and it was so funny. Owen was just saying how it's time for us to see these males again. He's only seen them once in this 2 weeks that he's been here. I'm sure a few of you are wondering, I mean, if that young sub-adult male or the young male of the pride that we have got such a connection to is around. I haven't seen him yet, but I mean, we found him yesterday afternoon in an area where there wasn't too much signal, so Nikki was also quite far away to get to him, and he was with the pride. So things might have changed now that the dominant male is here. Maybe he could be on the outskirts of the pride, but hopefully, I mean, if they managed to kill something last night, I wonder if he was able to get something to feed on. I hope he did. A few of the adult females have got their heads up and they're looking down in towards the river, and we're just about to get the morning light onto us. It's going to be very, very beautiful as soon as this beautiful orange light hits us. What I'm hoping though is that these lions haven't finished calling. I haven't heard the whole pride calling with one another before. Moonbeam is saying that you thought only panthers were pink. Do you not know anything, Moonbeam? No, I'm joking. No, it's so funny, and I think like especially because it's white, it just shows the off colors so much more. So I'm sure its sibling right next to it's probably also got a bit of tinge of red, but we just can't see it because of the orange color of the tawny coat. Ooh, big. Get up and stretch from one of the females. She's going over. Let's see. She might go over to one of the cubs. Looks like there's a big grooming party just about to take place. There's a big stretch, and those are a couple of the females there that look like they could potentially want to get up, although she is turning and settling down again. See, looks like they're also feeling the cold. I mean, they're all huddled right next to one another, trying to keep themselves warm. Danny, you asking how many babies a lion can have usually? And I mean, in a litter, the average size is probably around 2 to 3 sometimes, or maybe 4, 5 at a very big push. But the average is around between 2 and 4, I would say. One sneezing. See there. And they will typically have, I mean, it takes them quite a long time once they've, once the lions give birth and they successfully raise their cubs to adulthood, it will take them another 6 months or so for them to eventually come back into estrus. So typically a lioness will give birth every 3.5 years or so, around there. There's a few mischievous ones more to the right. Looks like they're in quite an intense wrestling match. See, those ones don't look nearly as dirty as that white one. But they would have definitely tried to compete over the feeding frenzy. In the last couple of days we've been trying to catch up to them, because the last time we saw them was with Nikki, and that was about 4 days ago. And I mean, they were walking in a northerly direction along one of the far eastern parts of our reserve, and they were literally just walking straight north. And close to the safari camp, we thought we saw tracks of them crossing out, and we thought this is quite unusual. We've never seen these lions this far north before, and we were wondering what made them move so far. And we thought that they'd left the property, so what we were doing is just checking the boundary to see when they would return again. And yesterday afternoon we just went on a small little patrol, an aerial patrol, just to see if we could find anything, and literally we stumbled across these lions who were lying around a waterhole. The station's just located at Pride Old Airstrip. So whilst we hang around here, we're not going to go anywhere. Hopefully these lions have got one last roar, and that's what we'll be waiting for. But whilst we wait for that, we'll send you across to Tristan to see what his search is looking like.
Hopefully they do. There's nothing quite like sitting with a pride of lions when they're roaring. It's a pretty special thing, that's for sure. Now, I found the tracks for Tingana. I'm pretty sure the other tracks that I saw just now, I wasn't mad. There was definitely tracks. It was for Tlalamba but I think it's the ones that go around and then over onto quarantine that Dave's busy following. I'm just checking these tracks here just to make sure it is indeed Tingana's tracks and not older ones. Hyenas have walked all over it though, so it was early evening. But I'll show you the track so you can see what we're talking about. I don't know if you're going to be able to get it over my shoulder here, Alex, but there's a track kind of on the edging of this tire track. So if you go in, I'll try and guide you towards it. Okay, go up to your left. So yeah, there's one in the middle of the screen and one on the left of the screen now. So that's obviously the footprints for Tingana. Where he was left is right here. It's not even 200 meters from where I'm sitting. And they're going towards the dam. Now, I know he wasn't seen on the dam cam, so either he walked along and went behind the dam wall, which is something that is possible. Sorry. And went behind the dam wall, which is very, very possible for him. Or he walked straight up Mvubu and somehow avoided being detected. So we're going to try and see if we can find him. I didn't see any tracks on Mvubu. What's that in the road in front of us? There he is. Yes, yes. Leopard. It looks like Kalamba, not him. We drove right past her. She was obviously in the drainage line, but just turned around. You see, sometimes it's all about inches. I don't know if it is her. It's certainly a female. Might even be Tundi, but let's have a look quickly. Hey, yay, a leopard. First thing in the morning. And I told Emma this morning, I'm going to find a leopard at Weirtilla Dam. And I'm going to sit with it this morning. And was I right, Emma? Yes, I was right. But Tingana's tracks are also here at Kalamba. I should have put money today. But it looks like Kalamba to take us into the most horrible block. Yes, Kalamba, you were being sneaky, but we caught you. Just by turning around because of Tingana's tracks. But, oh, it's good to see her. You've been giving us the runaround, little girl. You've been all over the place. Awesome. She's gotten big. I, for a second, thought it might have been Tundi just by her size, but she looks really good. She's going to take us into a horrible place. Maybe she'll even take us to Tingana and we'll get a daughter-father reunion, but let's keep up with her because in this block, she can lose us in 2 seconds. It's very thick in places. There's lots of aardvark holes and various other things. And so it can be a bit tricky to keep up with her from time to time. But she looks like she's actively busy with something. When is she not? That's actually the other side of it. And she's always busy with running around and being a bit of a hooligan. I'm just going to try and... Hello, girl. She looks like she could do with a meal, though. She looks quite hungry at this stage. You can see her tummy is sucked in a little bit. I believe a lot of you are excited. I hope so. Be as excited as I am. Our leopard drought has seemingly been broken, which is good. I would be so happy if we got her and Tingana together to make my day, that's for sure. All right, let's catch up. She's not making life easy for visuals at this stage, but that's okay. She'll eventually settle down. As that sun comes up, it's going to get warmer, and hopefully that's going to allow her to settle. Murray and Ben, generally at a year old is when they get named. So at a year, the chances of them surviving increases basically exponentially as the days go on. But a year old, they're pretty much self-sufficient by then. They can survive and look after themselves, and they're able to actually function as a leopard. When they are under a year old, then it's a little bit more tricky for them. They still rely heavily on their mom. Hunting is not as easy, so a year is kind of that point where they then get named. But isn't that cool? She's so busy, this cat. She makes me laugh. She's been on a serious mission this morning, or last night. She's walked around the camp. She went down, I think it's her that went down to where Dave is. And then she's come all the way back again, basically a full circle. I wonder if maybe she heard Tingana and decided to come and have a little look. Sometimes that can happen. If they hear a male and then they go looking, especially at her age now, she's going to be starting to think about mating for the first time. And so it's very possible that she could be responding to his calls, but where's she gone? I've lost her. Oh no. Which way did you go, girl? Did she go up the mound? I waited to see if she was going to go up the mound, but she's obviously walked on. Alright, I'm going to try and find her quickly and try and see if we can spot where she's gone. In the meantime, though, I'll send you back across to Eric and the Birminghams.
And they're definitely not on a mission. They seem to just be enjoying this morning light. I can't wait to enjoy it with them. Just try and dethaw a little bit. We've just gotten to a slightly different position, and you can see the rest of the pride all huddled together there, and two white cubs right next to one another. They're looking very nice and cozy, and both of them have got those bloody faces we couldn't quite see on the rest of the pride. He's looking very content with life. He's looking, there's a few just out of view. There's a couple of cubs that are exploring a little bit, and he's every now and again just keeping an eye on them. The rest of the pride, the adults, all seem to have settled down. It has been maybe about 15 minutes or so since they last called. So I don't know if they're going to call again. We might have just caught their last morning roar. MGN starting the day off with a very horrible pun, saying that gives it a new meaning when a male lion says that he has to swallow his pride. Oh, dad joke of the day so far. I would give you a round of applause, but I won't. This one in shot is literally, I think it's contemplating whether it will go play with its siblings and its cousins, or if it's just going to fall asleep. But what's nice to see is they're reacting to sounds in the distance. See, so they all picked up their heads at the same time. I didn't hear anything. I can hear a vehicle or driving in the distance, but I don't know if it was that sparked their reaction. Let me just show you another part of the pride. Yeah, so whilst we wait and figure out what's going on here, we'll quickly send you over to Tristan, who I think has just managed to find his leopard again.
I am indeed. It's been so nice to spend time with them, and in particular, this little cat. I've been wanting to see her so much. She's obviously got a special place in my heart, just purely because I was very fortunate enough to be the first person to ever see this leopard in the world. And so we saw her when she was a tiny little baby in the den with her mom, and have watched her grow from that tiny cub to this self-sufficient leopard that's about to embark in the next phase of her life, where she's going to start going into motherhood now and have little ones of her own. It's going to be really cool to see her go from there. But it just goes to show you how leopards and finding leopards is such a matter of chance and a matter of inches. That cat was in the Mulawati behind the dam wall. Now, there's no ways driving on the road you're going to spot her from up there because of how thick the bush is. And had we not turned around, she would have walked behind us over the road and into this area, and you wouldn't have found her. Tracking now would have been very difficult to spot her. Also, finding tracks in this grass is not easy at the moment. But it just goes to show how, like I say, it's just matters of inches and timing out here. So much of what we do is luck-based. And I think that's the best part about it, is that you know that you need elements of luck in order to find what you're looking for. And a bit of perseverance and a bit of effort, eventually the luck will break in your favor. So we've had kind of 2 weeks of really tricky leopard viewing where we've struggled to find leopards. And, Dave broke the kind of rut with Hukamuri. And since then, we've really kind of come right again, which is nice. I'm so hoping that her dad is somewhere here as well. I'm hoping Tingana is in this area with her somewhere, and we have the two of them come together, because it's fascinating to watch her and Tingana interact. She, I think, drives him mad because she's so affectionate towards him. She comes and sniffs and she chuffs at him, and he's just typical male, not really that interested in being chuffed at and all kinds of other things that that she does. But you can see her scent marking everywhere. She's literally just spraying every marula tree we go past. She's having a little spray on it, and that's all part and parcel of a leopard doing their thing. And so I'm glad to see that she is. Andrea, I think you and so many others have such an emotional investment in her, just because we've been watching her. You know, it's like a lot of you that started out watching when we first started to see Shangila and Hosanna and their journey. This is just the next one, you know. This is the next phase. We saw her in her den. We've watched her grow up. We've watched her interact with all kinds of other leopards. And we've seen her go from strength to strength. Oh, she's in playful mode now. Now she's running around termite mounds and just being busy. All right, Kalahari, we're trying to keep up, not so fast. When she gets into these moods and she starts to run around, she becomes quite funny to follow. She makes me laugh when she gets like this. Kaylin, who's 10, who's from Ireland, who's really been a source of much inspiration and encouragement the last few days, as I mentioned yesterday. She says, yay, we're finding all the leopards. Well, like I said, Dave is actually the one who found most of them. This is the first one that I've found live on camera. So I've got Dave to thank for Hukamuri and Kuchava and Cub, but nice to have Kalahari this morning, I'll tell you that much. It's really, really good to see her. What amazes me with her is how fast she gets around. I mean, we've almost gotten through this block now. We're approaching basically Gowrie Cut Line on the northern side. Soon, as we start to drop down, we're going towards Gowrie Cut Line. And the speed at which she's getting through this is incredible. The problem, though, is that we're about to go into Aardvark City. This area is very difficult to negotiate. There are so many Aardvark burrows in this section that you've got to be so careful about the way that you drive around here, otherwise you end up with your entire body in an Aardvark burrow. Oh, she's still moving. I was hoping she had stopped for a second. She did stop. Thank you, Kalahari. I think she's looking for food. She's quite busy. She's stopping, listening. I'm sure she's stalking. All right. We're going to try and just keep up with her as she goes through these thickets and moves around. In the meantime, though, I'm going to send you across to Eric. Sounds like he's got a lioness that's being like Kalahari and is on the move.
These lions have just started to get up and move. They haven't moved too far at all, but we just came around and I thought maybe that the sun is going to be in exactly the wrong spot, but it's just making it so beautiful. It's creating this wonderful backlit light. See that male lion yawning. I don't know if you saw that, the mist coming out of his mouth as he exhaled there. Yeah, here we go. So the rest of the pride, I mean, he's right at the back. There's a few females that are actually walking straight towards us. And I'm sure he'll just be keeping a very close eye on them. So as it stands, if they keep walking within the next maybe 200 meters or so, they'll get straight to the Timbavati River. And what I like to see here is you really get to see how tall the grass is. I mean, the grass is pretty much covering the lion's belly, so it's about maybe just under a meter tall. So let's count. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 lions, 4 females. So all 4 of the females have started walking, and we've got only a few of the cubs, so there's still quite a few to come. A black mantra? Yes, they do. They mostly sleep in the daytime and hunt at night. Although it's like a general rule of thumb. And so they tend to be a lot more nocturnal, so they're active at night time. But they will definitely, if an opportunity presents itself, they'll definitely hunt in the morning, in the afternoon, sometimes in the middle of the day. And I mean, a great example of it happened only 2 or 3 days ago when Tristan was lucky enough to see a pride catch a warthog, and that was, I think, somewhere around 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning. And so at least 2 hours, that male lion is up against the bushes. He's scent marking, so he's just rubbing his face. And what I've noticed here, actually, there's 5 adult females. And so I think the lioness with the smallest cubs has actually joined the pride. And where she's left her cubs isn't too far away, actually. So to imagine she leads them towards the den and introduces them for the very first time. We'll see if we can get a quick view now, but I've literally just seen the sub-adult male. Sure. We're going to try and get into the front of the pride again. We'll see if we can get a... Okay. We just want to show you that the sub-adult male, the young male's right at the back of the pride, and he's hanging on. He's stopping, and I'm sure he's very, very conscious of this male lion. He doesn't want to get in his way. And so he's just hovering about 30 meters behind the pride, but he is managing to keep up with them. He's coming into a clear view now. There he is. You still see quite a severe limp. Doesn't look like he's putting any pressure on that back leg, but he's not looking too bad. And that limp is very bad, but he's not looking completely emaciated. There's no vertebra sticking out, or ribs, or hips. He's coming through here. Yeah, got him. I thought you were with him, sorry. There he is, he's coming into view now. So he's stopping, and he's very, very conscious about this male lion. And this male lion, just like we saw, he's marking his territory, he's stating his dominance. Now he's putting a bit of pressure on it. Sure. If there was ever a definition for tenacity, this male lion is showing it right now. See, I'm not going to get too close to him, but I would like to just see his injury. I haven't seen it in about a week. Just see what it's like. See, he's so focused. The only thing he's doing is watching that male lion. He is stopping. And with the pride, yeah, absolutely. And we'll get to see his injury really properly now, because he's walking away from us. And that leg does seem very deformed, especially in the way that it walks. But, like I said, the excellent thing is look how he's putting pressure on it now. I mean, it's completely thin on one side. I think he's losing a lot of muscle condition. But there is some slight bit of red tinge on the front legs, which might mean that he was able to use his body weight to squeeze into whatever they were eating last night. And so, although his stomach doesn't look full, there's probably some fresh meat that he's probably digesting and getting some very, very essential nutrients in his body. Sure, so I hope everyone's feeling a little bit better about that. Okay, so seems like we've got it easy. Let's go across to Tristan and see how much luck he's having following that leopard.
We have indeed, but a beautiful mission. She is looking so pretty in this morning golden light. She's strutting her stuff and scent marking, and just now we had her kind of marking her territory, and there was this little puff of dust in the gold and her kind of looking out through the bush. It was a very, very pretty scene. So I've been thoroughly enjoying being on the mission with her. The unfortunate part is we are starting to get towards the northern boundary pretty quickly now. As you can see, she's covering distance quite fast, and so we're heading up towards Buffelshoek cut line pretty quickly at this rate. And so I'm not sure if we're going to be able to keep up with her for that long, but hello, girl. No problem, Emma. You can stay with us for as long as possible. The problem is even if she doesn't go into Buffelshoek, if she cuts more to the east, I'm also not going to be able to follow her. We're too far north now of the area that is where we can follow off Gari cut line. It now becomes just impossible to get through, and so I'm going to have a problem with keeping up with her if she goes over the road. So either she's going north or she's going to lose us going east. But we're going to try and see if we can figure it out. Obviously, if she goes north, can't do it. She goes east. Oh, there she is there. Elika, who's 10 years old, she is absolutely beautiful. She's still young, so she's about 2.5. Absolutely, one of the pretty we have. Got her looks from her mom and her dad at this stage, and so she's still growing up and still becoming bigger and stronger, and like I say, she's going to come into the time now where she's going to become a mom soon. Some leopards will mate as early as 2.5, which is, like I say, what she is now. Others as long as 4.5 until they have their first cubs. So it will depend, but I think given that she was left fairly young by Thandi, I think she's going to be a mom fairly early on in life. But you see, she's just smelling and sniffing around. I don't think she's on the trail of Tingana, but she certainly is interested in every little smell. I see her stopping and smelling all the time, as though she's just trying to take in what's going on around her. Now, when she stops and sniffs like this, there can be two reasons that she's doing it. One is that she's picking up another leopard, but generally when they pick up another leopard, you'll see their mouth will open, and they'll do what's called a phlegm grimace. So they'll show their teeth, and they'll basically work out the scent. Is it a male? Is it a female? And what the situation is. What she's doing now is not doing that, and so I suspect she's actually picking up the scent of maybe a prey animal. So something like a duiker or a steenbok, they'll often lie down in places like this, and she can sniff around, and if she picks up the scent, she knows that somewhere close by could be a potential prey source, and so she must be a little bit more kind of careful about what she's doing. Either that, like I say, I mean, it's possible, but we'll see. If she phlegm and grimaces, then we know it's more a leopard scent, but she's not doing that. She's looking more like you see, she's very gentle with her paws. It's almost like she's following the scent for something that was lying down here that she can potentially hunt. But how beautiful is that coat in that light? Oh, she is pretty. Hello, girl. You've made my day. In fact, you've made my entire week. I really enjoyed being with Kuchava and not Ned last night, but there's part of the enjoyment of seeing Kalamba is because the difficulty in finding her is not easy. Just from a tracking point of view, if we had picked up her tracks and we knew that they were very fresh, the amount of distance she's covered in such a short space of time would have made it really tricky to have found her. And you can see she doesn't like walking on roads as much as some of the other leopards do, like Tingana. She prefers these kind of thicker, denser areas, and it makes finding and keeping up with her and having any sort of longevity in a sighting with her pretty tricky. So it's always nice when we get to spend time with her. And all right, we're going to stay with her. She's fairly stationary for now, sniffing about, which means that we should have a little bit longer with her. In the meantime, let's send you across to Eric. It sounds like the lions have caught Kalamba's fever and are full of beans.
They've just come onto a road, and the pride is split for now. So the big dominant males walk straight along the road, and he's following a couple of the females exactly where that cub is walking now. And then a few others they've gone more towards the left. And so I'm just trying to wait and see where the majority of the pride move towards, because either we'll go down the road or we'll loop into the river and see if we can see them coming from there. So I've got the feeling that because the majority of the adult females were walking down the road, that's probably where the rest of the pride will end up. So I think that's probably the best bet. A few of them all stopped at a big fresh pile of buffalo dung, and they were sniffing around and just investigating, and some of the cubs even went in and looked like they were trying to roll in it. So I've never really seen with lions before. I've often seen it with leopard, but not with lions so much. I think I've made the wrong... Oh no, here, they're still here. At least a few of them are still here. Oh my goodness, in the tree! They made it up! Yeah, this is incredible. It looks like it's confused. It doesn't know what to do from here. He's finally made it up a tree. Very awkward. He's going to fall. Oh, that was very lucky that we got there just at the right time. The rest of them are all hanging around. And it's amazing. I've often seen the two white cousins right next to one another. And I think it's probably just a coincidence, but they see, oh, there we go. Now she's doing it. Exactly what her older cousin did. And she's going to go and say, nah, I got higher than you did. They're just very lucky that they've chosen a tree that's got a nice gentle gradient enough for them to climb up. Let's see how the dismount goes. I'm very excited for this. And by this age, about a year old, if you think about a leopard and how astute they are in a tree, they make these lions look silly. But they don't practice it as often. Here she comes. Let's see how it goes. Slowly. That actually wasn't too bad. She did well. She did very well. Okay, well, what's the rest of the pride? Yeah, buddy. Most cats will climb trees. Lions, just because they're so big, usually don't, because their body to weight ratio, or their weight to power to weight ratio, jeepers, is not as good as the leopards, and so they tend not to really bother climbing trees too much. There are areas where you often find, in East Africa, you'll find lions up trees a lot. When I went to go and do some gorilla trekking in Uganda, we found a pride of 8 lions in a massive sausage tree. Males included. They were all maybe about 10 meters up in a tree. So they can climb, but it also tends to be habitual. So if the mothers climb the trees a lot, the cubs do it and they just get into the habit here. Whereas these ones here, they're all down into the river. Very cool. Want to try and get past them, so they're lying in the road, so that's not going to happen. So as we come down into the river, just a reminder that the kids session has closed, but kids are more than welcome to keep sending on their questions. It's just open up to every other viewer, so feel free to send through all of your questions and we'll be sure to try and answer as many as we can. So it's interesting, it seems like the male lion, the dominant one at least, has moved down the road and is walking away from the pride for now. And I'm wondering if maybe it's following the youngest female, and that female might be going straight towards where she's been keeping her cubs for the last couple of weeks. It's probably, if they go straight along the river does bend quite a lot. And so it's probably around about a kilometer and a half away. And so, it will take them quite a long time. So I'm very happy to just sit here with the pride as they looking to settle down in the river. A few of them have moved right into the open patches of sun. They're just trying to warm up, and what's really nice is that sub-adult or that young male lion is still with them. Incredible. Sub-adult. Critter, you saying if these lions are saying whatever leopards can do, lions can do better. With the tree climbing skills, I don't think I agree with you. I mean, that was quite an easy tree, and they made it look like very, very hard work. But they're trying. I guess they're pretty competitive with those leopards. I mean, a leopard would make very light work of a tree like that. But these lions are being very active. It is so much fun to watch. See that roll onto the stomach and kind of protecting its spine. It's basically a sign of submission. So that young male, if he's up against the Ross males, he'll do exactly the same thing to try and protect his spine from those very, very sharp fangs that lions have. And so all of this playfulness is actually really, really important as they start to get older. And I'm sure in and amongst that little group over there, there's a few males, so that looks like the one closest to the big male white one is also a male, and they'll have they'll be competing for hierarchy. So we're going to probably hang around here for a lot longer, and I mean, if they do happen to move, we'll follow them, but it does look like they could be settling here in the sun. And so we would like to just send you across to Tswalu Kalahari so they can say good morning.
Good morning from a beautiful, magical day at Tswalu Kalahari. From Yandra and myself, hope you're going to join us today. It's going to be a glorious day, I think. We've got some sociable weaver nests here we can chat about later. There's lots of tracks on top of this dune that we can have a little quiz on as well, and maybe follow some for you guys. But yeah, I hope you're going to enjoy as much as we're going to enjoy being out here with you. And yeah, let's just go explore. It's still quite cool this morning, a little bit warmer than yesterday. We actually had ice on the game drive vehicle when we departed this morning, so that's why we still wrapped up like this. But we're on a dune crest now, so it's a little bit warm up here. But as the sun picks up a little bit, you can actually see there's no sun where we're standing here yet. But later, as it comes over the mountains, we're going to head down to the Meerkat Burrows. We've got a fun surprise in store for you down there. So yeah, stick with us. Yeah, it's a beautiful morning. See the sun reaching those flat areas there. Leopards, Tristan's following up on that leopard. There's some activity there, so I think cut over to him and we'll catch you.
We are still with our leopard. This is our last view we're going to have of her. Oh no, camera, behave yourself. Put my camera next to me and it's sitting on the button. So I'll have to go through a whole bunch of door pictures. Lovely. So anyway, like I say, she's going to cross into an area now where it's just not going to be feasible to follow her. There's no way to get a car in here. I have tried endless amounts of times to follow cats through this section. It's just not possible. Where she is going right now. She's too far north, unfortunately, but at least she stopped for us to get one last view, and it's so pretty with her curled little white tail up, and especially when she looks over her shoulder and there's that little bit of light that just catches her eyes. The area that we're in this is a fire break that's been mowed. That's why it looks so short. Are you going to sit still for us? Oh, you lovely cat. What are you watching down there? Whatever it is, we must be thankful that there is something that's piqued her interest, because it allows us to have this incredible view of her out in the open, looking ever so pretty. It's amazing, though, how quickly we lose her. Just now we were following her and we lost her, and I was saying to Alex, I'm sure she's going to be on the road. We must just get to the road rather than worrying about it. She gets busy and then she starts to trot, and especially if she spots things, then she can be hard to keep up with, and luckily she stopped on this little section. Lorimer, it's a good way to actually describe her. She does always look like a pointer. She's almost stops and kind of has her nose forward as if to say, I've found what I'm looking for. So she is very much that way inclined. So it's a good way to describe her. Maybe we should have called her Pointer and not Kalahari, although I like Kalahari. It's a nice name, but difficult for a lot of people to say. It's quite funny to see when people say it for the first time. When they see the spelling, it just kind of throws them off completely. So at one point somebody was calling her Tlalalamba, which was making James highly irritated, because James obviously speaks the African languages, and he knows the way that things should be pronounced, and he would get very upset when people used to call her Tlalalamba. It was very funny to watch him. Actually, at one point, I think we started doing it just to irritate him a little bit. In our camp, nothing can go unpunished in terms of playing the fool with each other. If something starts to irritate you, you can be sure that the crew will pick it up and start to do it just as a bit of a joke. Oh, but she is pretty. Kalamba, you've grown into a fine little leopardess, you know that. Thinking about that little cub when she was this little sort of innocent bundle of fluff, to now where she's got this incredibly beautiful coat, and she's a lethal little hunter, this cat. A lot of our kills of recent times have been thanks to her. She seems to be really good with catching fairly decent size impalas, as well as things like duiker. She goes after them quite a lot. She favors those. Now, where she is at the moment, just talking about food, is a really good place for her to be, because this little open section often attracts quite a number of impalas and quite a number of duikers. They like to come and they eat off the shorter grass, and they know it's much easier to see predators. But the thing is that it's a great place for her because she's got thickets on either side, so she can use those thickets to worm her way along and then be able to hunt those various antelopes. And we know that she's had kills on this road multiple times. We've seen her in that big jackalberry with an impala kill last year. She's was in probably one of the most incredible sightings I've had, or days that I've had, in this particular section. Not far from where we are right now was where Tandi killed, I can't even remember what it was. Was it impala? I think it was an impala. And then Tingana stole it, and Hosana was also there, and we had that interaction between Tandi and Hosana where Hosana kind of put his foot down for the very first time and chased Tandi back. And then they moved off, and Tandi killed another impala. And then we had that interaction between Tandi, Tlalamba, the hyenas, Hosana, and Tingana. It was a pretty ridiculous sighting, that one. And that one actually became quite popular because it was on a TV show of all times. It was ridiculous. I mean, obviously the Tandi and Tlalamba part not so much, but the Hosana Tingana part was kind of part of our TV show, which was very, very cool. So this little place here has got lots of a place of leopard fortune in many respects, but also of leopard pain, because you can't follow them very easily at all. Anyway, it seems like Tlalamba's taken on the lion attitude this morning and is just sitting pretty, and Eric's lions have taken on her attitude and apparently being little delinquents.
These lions really haven't stopped being active. It's been very awesome to watch, but this male lion has just come onto this scene, and he is sneaking. He's getting super close to this young male, and just look at his posture. He is so focused on him, moving quite quickly. Decided to scent mark rather. So he maybe wasn't as focused as I initially thought, but watch the sub-adult's reaction is going to be one of submissiveness. So just like I was talking about, how it turns onto its back to protect its spine and just tries to lash out with the front paws, and see if anything happens here, because he is literally walking straight past him. See that sub-adult just doesn't want anything to do with him. It's amazing how sometimes these dominant males will just tolerate him. I mean, I guess maybe they realize that he's absolutely no threat for now. But he is scent marking and just showing the dominance. So, Dylan, you're 7 years old and you're asking why male lions have manes and females don't. And there's a few reasons, Dylan. One of them is what we're seeing now is a way to make the male lion look much bigger. And so if he looks bigger, he's more scary for other lions, and it's much easier for him to be able to chase away other males if he's got a bigger mane. If they decide that they can't decide which one is bigger, then they need to fight with one another to see who's going to be the winner. And when they fight, we'll actually watch some play fighting happening as we speak. But they'll basically be hitting each other around the back of the head and on the face with these very big, powerful claws. And if they can, they'll pin the lion down and try and bite around the back of the neck or the throat, something along those lines. And that big, thick hair of the mane protects the back of the neck and the throat and everything towards if they happen to get into a fight with another male. So those are just a few reasons as to why they've got one of those big manes. And the females, because they're not really competing with one another so much, they don't really need to have a big bulky mane. You can just imagine, I mean, it's like wearing a coat that's very thick, and it just is very, very hot sometimes. And so for lionesses, if they're trying to hunt and they keep getting overheated, then it's not really efficient for them. And so they haven't got manes. There's actually 1 or 2 cases of males without manes that have been born and they've just never grown it, but that's just just sort of like a recessive gene. See it. There's a few of them all around this bush and they're playing a game of King of the Castle. It's really cool to see that they're so active. And I mean, usually you'd kind of say that from about a year old, the age that the youngest ones are now, it's almost like they're starting to grow up and mature and play time is over. And you don't really get to see them so active, especially in the morning time. But it's just so cool to watch them playing around like this. And I don't know what's so special about that tree, but everyone will go into the tree and they'll literally try and walk into it. Oh, got a massive roly-poly there. Jeepers creepers. Oh, this is absolutely crazy. And there he goes, back to the same tree. Yeah, so that is hysterical to watch. It just shows, I mean, they're not very sure-footed like a leopard is. We're going to be sticking around here and we'll be watching this pride play for as long as we can. But it does sound like Tristan has got a leopard on the move, so let's quickly go over to him before he might lose her.
She is indeed. She's unfortunately in a really bad signal area, so I do apologize if we have breakups and things like that. It's just part and parcel of where we are. But she is walking out in the open better than we could ever have asked for. And every now and then she just goes into the light, and that little white tail is up in the air. It's really cool to see. I'm going to try and see if I can catch up with her. Like I say, and the signal is really, really bad. She's getting too far now for the cameras to really work properly. So we're going to try and get a little bit closer to where she is. I do apologize if it breaks up. Just hang on and hang it tight. just so we have a higher antenna, which should give our signal a bit of a chance. But isn't she pretty with her little tail up? Oh, when a leopard walks like this with that little candy cane tail up over their body, it is one of the best things. I absolutely love when they walk like this. She does it a lot, particularly when she walks in the open. She tends to walk like this, and basically all she's doing is she's telling everybody that's around here, please don't shout at me, please don't make a noise, I'm just walking past, I'm not trying to hunt any of you, so leave me alone. And basically that's how she's kind of communicating to everyone. As soon as she goes into a thicket, that tail will come right back down again. Luigi Line, you say Kalamba frame is worth 1,000 spots. It is. She's so pretty, and especially in a place like this. I mean, how often do we get Kalamba walking out in the open like she is now, just kind of strutting her stuff along with her little tail up and beautiful golden morning light? It really is special to have her like this. She's normally a bit of a hooligan in thickets, and so to have her just kind of with the confidence to walk right out in the open is really very, very special. Now, it would have made it quite difficult if you had come here and you hadn't seen her and tracked her. Because she's been walking so much on this sort of mowed green area, you wouldn't actually know where she had gone. You would have thought she'd cut off, but just goes to show why you need to check up and down the road a little bit just to make sure they don't come back on. But there's that tail up again. Very cool. Unfortunately, I can't move from here because I'm going to lose signal if I come down from this little mound quickly. And she's about to go over the boundary. She's approaching the fire break now, so she's literally a few meters away. Where you see those trees at the end of the road, that's the Buffelshoek boundary. And where she's heading, I suppose I should actually let the guys in Buffelshoek know that she's about to cross over to their side. It's probably a good thing to do, since they always help us out so much. Shal. Don't know if any of you guys are interested, but Kalamba's about to cross into Buffelshoek. She's on Gari Cut Line, just mobile straight north at the moment. But isn't that pretty? Copy, yeah, she's just south of the fire break, but steadily mobile north. It's a cool dramatic shot as a kind of ending to a movie. Can you imagine just this leopard sort of cruising down the road with its little white tail? Oh, she's going to scent mark first, as if to say this is my area, my little terrain, and my place that I own. It's actually quite nice watching her from a distance. It's obviously not, it's not what we normally do. We're normally a little bit closer, but there's something about the scene in front of us with these dead trees and the grass and just kind of the light and everything. It's just a pretty, pretty scene. When you kind of roll up onto this, you would be so excited if you kind of spotted that little tail up in the distance. And that's what I mean with those big tall trees and her kind of moving through that area. All right, Em, I'm afraid I'm going to try and catch up just so I can tell the guys exactly where she crosses, because we can't see her anymore. So if we can send you guys across back to Eric and the lions, who seem like they're still being absolute little hooligans.
Just as we thought things were starting to settle down, they just erupt into this massive, playful episode. It's still fantastic to watch. I love the fact that one will hide at the very edge of the bank, and then as soon as one comes, they jump on top of one another. So they're starting to learn. I mean, I'm sure they've watched their parents hunt a lot recently, and so now they're just trying to figure out what works and sneaking up and how to take down something. It will still be at least probably another 6 to 8, 9 months before they actively start joining the parents and the females in with the hunting. But all of this playfulness is just really good practice. We've got 5 of the litter here that are playing around, and then the other 3 have gone across to where the adults are sleeping, and it seems like a few more are starting to move towards where the females are. So this could be the last time that we see them playing, so it would be cool to just watch them for a little bit longer. And there's some squirrels, some squirrels that are alarm calling, and I'm pretty sure it's at these lions, but there's a few lions that are just investigating, so they're staring at the opposite bank to see if the squirrel hasn't really found anything else. And we heard that leopard rasping. We haven't heard anything else in the last while. Dalcine, it really is. It's just like watching kids on a playground, especially with this little jungle gym that they've got themselves here. See, another one, this bigger white one seems like it's trying to get into a position where it can mount its attack. So it's probably just going to wait for a few of the other cubs to run down in its direction. There's been a stick that has been like the prized possession that they're wrestling each other over. And every now and again they'll almost crunch all the stick, and it sounded like a bone breaking. And as soon as that crunch happened, I just saw the male lion picking up his head to see if maybe there was a free meal on his doorstep that he hadn't become aware of. Oi, there's a nice big jump. And there they go, back to that same tree. Seems like the cousin was a little bit rough there, and the female turned around and gave him a little bit of a growl. It's the first time we've really heard a proper growl, actually. So now that they're coming down, there's a few of them that are actually lying down in the river. So like I was saying, it seems like things are starting to calm down a little bit. No movement from the females whatsoever, no movement from the cubs. So whilst we wait and see if they decide to carry on playing or if they decide to settle down, let's send you across to Tswalu Kalahari and see what Dylan has for you. Apologies for that. Apparently there's one or two issues with the audio on Dylan's side, so as soon as that gets sorted, we'll send you back there. We've down to one little lion cub in the tree that's drawn so much of their attention this morning, and the rest of them have started to move on towards the rest of the pride. But even that is such a beautiful view. You can see literally we're looking at 14 lions all on the bank of the river, just taking in the morning light. It really is special. Unfortunately, we didn't manage to show you the last call for the morning, but I mean, we were able to find them because they called. So. Another cub has just come back for some more playful time. So Matthew H is old, and you're trying to help me figure out what's going on with the bush, and you're asking if if the lions aren't maybe going to brush their teeth in the tree. And Matt, unfortunately, I don't think they would be using that to brush their teeth. I haven't really seen them brush their teeth at all in my 5 years of being a guide. And so I think the way that they clean their teeth is probably just by I don't know, maybe licking them or something like that. But it's funny you say that tree is actually used sometimes by people to clean their teeth, but I don't think lions will use tools in any way to clean their teeth at all. But thank you for helping me try and figure it out. I think it's just, it's probably a little bit springy, and so, I mean, they like going up to the top, and they almost like fall down into it, and so it's probably just got a nice feeling, almost like a trampoline effect. So maybe that's what is drawing their attention to it so much. Luke, I'm sorry to be the bearer of bad news, but lions definitely do not floss every day. But people should, so keep flossing. Don't take lions as the example. So this is the two youngest siblings of the pride. So it's the two little sisters, and I'm sure they just got slightly more energy than the older ones. It's probably a lot easier to run around being a little bit lighter, and so they might be playful for a little bit longer. And you can see straight back to that tree. I mean, I wonder, if a leopard scent marked up against it, and perhaps there's a smell there that's intriguing them. I don't know. Now it looks like it's trying to floss. Right. We've got probably another 10 or 15 minutes of playfulness in these lions, perhaps. So we might end up moving off by the time that they settle down. But in the meantime, we'll send you across to David to have a look at a really cool bird he's got.
Welcome back to our neck of the woods. Just stopped at the Tswalu Dam to enjoy the beauty of this incredible fish eagle. One of my favorite birds out here. Unfortunately, looks like Kachava and her cub have left the tree, and all that remained of the impala was a couple legs lying on the ground. So I was hoping we could still see them this morning. Yesterday evening it sounded like there was still a lot of meat on that carcass, but they obviously got hungry during the night. Also possibly they dropped the impala carcass and hyenas devoured it. But either way, they left the area. At least it was incredible to get to spend a couple of days with him. So just, like I said, came down to Tswalu Dam, taking it in. Trying to warm up actually. BK and I have been travelling some distance this morning, and the cold has turned our faces a bit numb. So we're very happy to be sitting here next to the water. The sun's reflecting beautifully off the water and warming our bones. Looks like this fish eagle is doing the same. Taking it in. Critter, you say this is one regal eagle. It is a good description. I don't see the other one around. Rosie, wondering what sound fish eagles make. That's one call that I will not try and mimic. In the past when I've tried to mimic it, I was met with much laughter. But if you YouTube it, you will hear the iconic sound of the African fish eagle. A sound that always echoes across our waterways and up our rivers throughout Africa. Definitely a call that warms your heart if you love Africa. Rosie, you know what I can do? I won't do it loudly because I don't want the fish eagle to hear it, because it would confuse it. But I can play a little call that I've got on my phone. I'll just hold it right up to my mic and play it softly. And then you can hear that beautiful call. We've talked about it, so I'd like to let you listen to it. Here we go. Did you hear that? Beautiful. I just wanted to play that softly into my mic so we didn't annoy this fish eagle. Remember, those calls are often territorial, and if you play it loudly in the bush, then it might confuse this eagle. But we're going to continue along here around the dam's edge, see what else we can find. While we do that, let's send you over to the other side, see what's up.
So we're just on the way down to the Meerkat Burrows. It's going to take us a little bit of time to get there, but it's still cool, so they'll still be in bed, but they'll be coming out fairly soon. And apologies for the breakup earlier. We were just looking at another one of those beautiful mirages that had formed out on the horizon over there. So, but it's warming up quickly now, so that's dissipated. So I think we're going to focus on these meerkats for the next couple of minutes here. We just got to try to locate them first. It's still nippy out here, but not too bad. It's not as bad as yesterday morning. Oh, look at that mirage ahead. Sorry, while we're sitting here. Sorry, please repeat that question again. I heard something about flamingos. Kat, we've actually recorded flamingos here at every time of the year, not just in the winter months. And generally we've seen them in the summer months. But yeah, they have been recorded right through the year. And the ones that we've seen here are lesser flamingos, which is quite interesting. But it's not a common species, but they're beautiful birds, and there are a couple of breeding populations within 300-400 kilometers of us. So the ones that we're seeing are probably these birds, these vagrants that have moved in and then moved out again. And normally it's in very, very small groups, like 3, 4, 5 at a time. But they are remarkable birds, and they require very, very specific conditions to breed, which we don't have at Tswalu, unfortunately. You know, we've got very few, or we have no substantial water bodies. You know, all of our water points for the game that the game use are very, very small. So it's not ideal for flamingos in this environment. But speaking of water bodies, look at that absolutely magnificent mirage that's formed out in that horizon there. It looks like a body of water, and look how those hills actually seem to be floating there. Wow. I thought yesterday was good. This is just even better. And it looks exactly like a large body of water. So Megan, yeah, I also thought it was difficult to capture mirage on camera, and it actually turns out you can get it fairly easily. I think that one of the challenges is often these mirages that one sees, you know, just on a road, and that is very, very fleeting, and also relatively small, you know, or just small patches of it. Whereas out in this landscape, you get these massive sweeping vistas, and all of it can get covered with a mirage occasionally. You know, where Yonder is focusing down there now, that is beautiful, but I'm looking further across to the right, and it's extending all the way across there. So yeah, I mean, these are massive, and yeah, actually relatively easy to capture on camera. And you don't even need any special filters or lenses or anything for it. I mean, just a normal, I mean, even a cell phone camera, you know, if you zoom in, you'll actually be able to capture that. Gorgeous, eh? NJ, it is cool. It is absolutely so cool to see these mirages. And I love it because it's something that people don't see that often. I mean, like I say, you might see a little shimmer on a road here and there in the right conditions, but it's you know, you kind of, it's more something like you'll read about in a book or hear about. Oh no, these early travelers, you know, they're going off and getting lost, you know, following what appears to be bodies of water. And here you're actually seeing the real thing. You know, it's you know, it's there, it's tangible, it's at your fingertips. It's gorgeous, eh? And it's constantly changing, you know, as that temperature difference changes, you know, from the cold air just above it to the ground warming up, the air on the surface there. That mirage just keeps on changing, keeps on changing. Occasionally it actually looks like there's mountains floating in the air because it actually looks like they're detached from the ground. We're going to head over to Eric while we carry on with the meerkats here, so please enjoy that.
Seems like most of the morning activity and the playfulness is over. It was quite interesting. I mean, that male lion that you can see on pretty much in the middle of the frame, that one, he's the young male. He saw a couple of the females getting up and moving, so he decided to move, and he walked straight past the dominant male of the pride, and that male literally didn't do anything. The relationship between them has been quite fascinating. I mean, it's been something that we've been observing for over 2.5 years now, and it always just surprises me how tolerant they can be of this young male. So there he is, and see, if you look around the top of his head and around the chest over there, quite a light mane. So this is pretty much the less dominant of the two of the brothers. The other brother has got a very, very dark mane, and he tends to be slightly more aggressive towards this young male. And so maybe that's why. I mean, if both of them were together, they probably would team up and try and fight off this young male again, perhaps. Although I have seen them together before, and they haven't really done too much. What I find crazy is if we were here, if we had only just arrived now, we would have never known how much activity and how much mischief these lions had gotten up to. It just seems like they're all lying peacefully on the bank, just minding their own business, enjoying the sun. 10 minutes ago, they were really, really being active. And one of the best things about this time of year is the fact that we get to see these animals more active at this time of day. I mean, it's almost 8 o'clock now, and in the peak of our summertime, I wouldn't be surprised if a day like today would be getting close on 35 to 40 degrees Celsius. And so, I mean, it's way too hot, these lions. By now, I mean, probably closer to 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, they would have gone to find a spot to rest in, and that would have been them for the day. I just saw one of the lionesses getting up and moving towards the rest of the females. The rest of the females aren't too far. Another cub's yawning, so it might get up. Might just try and position myself quickly so we can see them coming towards the rest of the pride. And they're also on a bank. And what I love about this bank is it's eye level, so you get some really interesting shots, because most of the time we're looking down at these animals, and now we get the opportunity to look at them from sometimes even just above eye level. There we go. A little bit. I just want to get the grass out of the way, and then whilst we wait for the rest of the pride to move across and show you this nice view that we'll get shortly, we'll send you across to a waterhole in Djuma.
Look at this little beauty. Mom and the little baby. Just came around to get a look at them. They are so lovely to see. Little baby is there at the back. Hopefully it pops its head out again. Those noisy Egyptian geese at the back. There it is, just to the right. Oh, it was a very quick little pop up and pop down again. It looks like Mom might get out of the water. There's the baby. Get out, we're going to get to have a nice look. That's beautiful. Awesome, man. How cool. That is super cool. That was so cute. I believe everyone absolutely loved that. What great timing. Not common to see that. See Mom and such a young hippo get out of the water. To actually see them walking on that little bank there. So special. Courtney, you say that's the tiniest hippo you've ever seen. It is very young. Dwarfed by that big mommy. And confident in its safety next to Mom. She is a fearsome... She is a fierce protector. That is so cool. JT, you've asked how many babies, the hippos generally have at one time. It's one. Have one little calf. Give birth in the water. And it's very cool. The youngsters can swim within a few minutes. They'll generally give birth in shallow water. I'll find a little secluded spot. The corner of the dam somewhere. And then they'll generally spend a few days there, a couple weeks at least, in a secluded area before joining up with the other hippo. I've only ever seen one baby hippo. I've never heard of more than that. That was so cool. What a lovely sighting. Cat, you've asked, will the baby feed underwater or on dry ground? The babies will nurse underwater. They'll suckle underwater. They've got an ability to suckle underwater. Doesn't sound like a very easy task to drink underwater, but they're able to do it. And then from a young age though, they'll start accompanying their mom out in the evenings, but they only start to actually eat grass with their mother at about 5 months, which will then start supplementing their diet, and after about a year they'll no longer drink from their mother, then they'll only eat grass. That was so cool. Absolutely lovely. Such a privilege to be able to see such a young hippo and her mother get out on the bank. It's very unusual to see that. The only reason we got to see that is because she wanted to cross over that bank to get to the deeper water. We were just here at the right time. As always, we can only be here because of your support and your contributions. So please follow that link at the bottom of the page. Continue to show your support. We really appreciate it. What a lovely sighting. Well, looks like the hippo gone over to the other side to have a little bit of a chill. And speaking about chilling, let's go over to Eric and see what his lines are up to.
Oh, we've had a truly spectacular morning with these lions. It does seem like it's starting to warm up and they're just enjoying the last little bit of the morning sunlight before it gets too hot. And this lioness is really just in a deep sleep. She hasn't really moved in the last few minutes. Well, this is what I was talking about. It's quite interesting just to see her, because I mean we'll be looking down at her now, but we've got this beautiful level shot of her, so it's quite nice. And as we pan off to the right, around my big head, there's another lioness there. And so she is one of the lionesses of the cubs that we have here at the moment. The lioness that we hadn't shot now is actually the lioness with the young cubs. See the male coming over on the right there. The male's coming over. So quite a nice view of him. I'm sure he's just going to go and find a nice shady spot too. So he's walking right into the bushes. I'm sure that's where he'll probably settle. So it doesn't seem like we'll be around here for too much longer. Most of the playful time is over. But we'll send you across to Tswalu and the Kalahari and see if the meerkats are up to something this morning.
So this is another meerkat group. We were following over the past couple of days a group called the Mcculloughs. This little group is known as the horses. And what is super, super, super exciting about this is that the matriarch, the alpha female, is actually, a couple of days ago, just had pups, which our team that does the habituation has just figured out. So that is absolutely incredible, because what that means is that at this burrow system, these meerkats, somewhere underground in one of these holes, there's a couple of tiny, tiny, tiny little pups down there. They won't come out for three weeks or so, but it'll be really cool to follow them over the next couple of weeks. When this group goes foraging, they're always going to leave a babysitter over here. So there'll always be one meerkat hanging around looking out for danger. And I think it'll be really fun just to keep tabs on this group and see how they do over the next couple of weeks. And what a shot, eh? With the meerkats in the foreground, giraffe in the background. Yeah, this is amazing. This is so special. And if Yandra can so I really apologize there. I didn't get the name, but the question was, do we know how many pups they've had? We don't know how many pups they've had yet, and we'll only know that when they come out above ground. But they can have anything between 1 and 5 normally, occasionally more, but that's the average. So what we're seeing on Tswalu, we're looking at about 3 to 4. And so this is just super exciting. I mean, to know that exactly where we are sitting here, and they standing up getting some sun just underground, very close to us, are these tiny, tiny, tiny little meerkats in there somewhere. Yes, I'm so chuffed about this. And great job for our meerkats habituators that they actually picked up on this group, and that the fact that they've got pups. I mean, that's just such good work. You know, keeping tabs of these different colonies in such a big landscape can be quite challenging. Hey Linda, those giraffe are awesome, eh? And just so relaxed with us, you know, and to see them directly behind the meerkats. And they're curious. I mean, they're just like kind of watching Yandra and myself. What are they up to? Okay, there's no threat there, so we're just going to hang around, just keep tabs on them. You can see others are feeding. That big one is now moving further away, but super relaxed. And again, we just kind of another part of the environment, something that they're just used to seeing. And you see that. So, hey, Ivan, that's the classic case of who watches the watchers, you know, who keeps the keepers. And just above me here, you're going to see on this tree, it's just landed. That's a super bird. It's called an ant-eating chat. A southern ant-eating chat, actually. And that bird is really cool. It nests underground. Okay. So normally it'll get a larger burrow, like an old aardvark burrow, or even an active warthog burrow, and then it makes a little tunnel in the roof of that burrow, and that's actually where it lays its eggs. And during the next couple of days, we'll actually try to find a nest for you. They've finished breeding now, but it'll still be really cool to show you the nest and how it works in that. So, but that's that little bird. They love hanging around any animals that dig, like the meerkats, because they're insect eaters. So as the meerkats move around, or even things like aardvark and pangolins, if pangolins are out in the day, they'll do the same. As they're moving around foraging, the little ant-eating chats can actually follow them and capitalize on any little insects that scurry away. Or even if let's say the aardvark moves on and there's ants and termites around, then the birds can actually eat them. See, it's going down this. Oh, look at this! This is so cool. This is absolutely incredible. Tammy, we did bring the melon with, and what better time than to christen it now? So, Yandra and I went through the names that were put forward, and it's unanimous. The name for this little one is going to be Melanie. And that was chosen by who are the contestants? Tree Frog, Sunny Kim and Tree Frog won. They both voted for Melanie. So everyone meet Melanie. Melanie's going to be joining us on some of our adventures out here, and hopefully Melanie's eyesight is better than mine, and between Melanie and Yandre, hopefully we're going to find some good things for you guys. So we're just going to carry on just enjoying this time that we've got with these meerkats, and in the meantime head over to Tristan.
Well, I'm contemplating the name of your Sama melon and whether or not Emma is going to recover from the fact that she is not impressed about this name. She's in my ear telling me that she's not impressed. She doesn't think it's a suitable name for the melon. What did you want to call it again, Emma? Emma had a name for it this morning, but I can't remember now. Completely drawn a blank. Oh, Mel Gibson, the melon. I don't know. I'm not sure. Yeah, I don't know. But I feel like poor Melanie is going to need a boyfriend at some point. So the two boys that side are going to have to carve a new one. And that can be Mel Gibson and Melanie, and they can be, they can be chommies or friends. Anyway, let's get back to wildlife and what we've been up to. Kalahari obviously crossed north into Buffelshoek. We had a last view of her going over, but then we just decided quickly to shoot Sydney's dam because there was reports of the dogs crossing into Buffelshoek from Manyeleti. They look like they must be denning just north of the boundary because the guys are saying that the female's not with them and they're seeing the dogs every single morning coming out of Manyeleti into Buffelshoek and back again. So off chance I wanted to go and check. Then I found female leopard tracks coming out of Simambili, which we know generally Shidulu or Kara. But interesting enough, those tracks come all the way down to Quarantine. So it's the same tracks that David had. It's not the tracks that I had at Galago Pan. So now I'm intrigued to see if this was Kalahari that came all the way down. So I'm just checking slowly on the western side at the moment just to see if the tracks from Quarantine come westwards. Then we'll know that they should be Shidulu. If they go east, then it's going to be Kalahari because we saw her coming from west to east when we found her this morning. And then I'm going to go back to Tingana's tracks and see if I can scrounge him out for the morning. Doesn't look like he's crossed north. I did the boundary pretty much all the way from Gari Cutline, and there's no sign of him going north. The last tracks we know, we're heading towards Gari Dam, so I'm going to just go and check out and see if he's potentially somewhere around and just sleeping in the sun, because I would imagine that's what he's doing, is having a little nap in the sunshine. Erica, exactly, what a morning. I mean, it sounds like Eric's been having the best time with the Birmingham Pride. That sounded like a really epic sighting. And I'm still jealous about the white lions. I really can't wait to go and see them. I'm actually going next year to see them. Got a private guided safari that we're doing. It's actually going to be such a cool safari. I'm so looking forward to it because it's a trip that's going to be to go and see the white lions at Ngala. And then we're going from there, we're coming to Djuma for a little bit, and then from Djuma we're going to go and look for Hosanna and Tamba in the central Sabi Sands. So it's going to be white lions, Hosanna, Tamba, and then the leopards of Djuma. It's going to be a winning trip. That I'm like frothing to go on that one, that's for sure. Emma, do I need somebody to make tea? You do make good chai tea. If you bake a cake and bring chai tea, we'll think about it. Because you still haven't baked the cake yet. Emma's been threatening this cake every day for weeks now, and still no cake for us. I don't know what's going on, Emma. I feel like we're gonna have to look at this situation a little bit. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that, to go and see those white lions. So I was a little bit jealous, but in the end of the day, we had Kalahari, so I wasn't actually jealous too much. But Kalahari was really nice. Like I said, there's possibility of another female. There's possibility of Tingana. What will interest me though is if it is Columbus tracks, what is she doing into Simambili now? She just seems to be going everywhere. She's like, I'm just taking over the world. I'm going to be the dominant force in this area, which is dangerous because Shadulu and I think Cairo will probably be a little bit bigger than her, which is not going to be nice if she gets into a boxing match with them. That's for sure. All right, I want to just check here. I want to see David's little footprints moving around here. I wonder if he was trying to track this female in this area. And so while I just scratch here and see what is going on, I'm not sure where I'm sending to. Sorry, I was too busy looking at footprints on the ground here. But I'm sure wherever you're going, it will be interesting.
This is just incredible viewing. They're just so relaxed around our presence. Looks like they're smiling. Or this one that's facing the camera. It's got this like little half grin on his face. He knows something we don't. Now, which the other one's probably going to move so he doesn't get that shade on him. There you go. When it's cold like this, they don't like having shade on their stomachs when they're warming up. So the name of this group, Xhosa, it's spelled G-O-S-A, Xhosa, and it actually derives from the name of one of the original farms in this area. The actual original origin of the word, we don't know what Xhosa means. We kind of like jokingly say go SA, but yeah, so they got their name from that. The Go SA group. And then Mccullough, the other group that we were at, Mccullough is the name of a tree that occurs here. In fact, the little tree that's directly behind these two meerkats, that scrubby looking little bush, and then the taller one, those are Mccullough trees in Tswalu, which is the language, one of the local languages here. And we call it a camel thorn tree in English, camel thorn tree. I love the sand on their noses. Obviously where their noses are wet, and you get a little bit of red sand on there. Oh, he's not going to like that shade. You know, the etymology, the origin of words and how they come about is always fascinating. And you just find so many. We've got a number of names on Tswalu where we don't even know what the origins of those names are, and it's quite frustrating sometimes. But it's really fun when you do get into it, and you know, what does a name mean? What's the origins? If you look at the name Meerkat, it's actually it derives from a Dutch word for a monkey. Kind of monkey that occurs in Asia, and you know, and meer is also a Dutch word for a lake or a swampy area, and kat is a cat, so like a lake cat or a swamp cat, and that was actually the name, like I say, the Dutch name for a kind of monkey in Asia, and none of those monkeys actually even have any specific links to lakes or anything. So it's just interesting, you know, how did they come up with that name originally for monkeys, and how was that transferred to these little animals sitting in the heart of Africa? So I guess there's a lot of these things that we'll never know, you know, they're kind of lost in the mist of time. Yeah, so Yandre and myself were chatting about it the other day, and you know, whether you in your garden stuck at home, or you in a national park somewhere in whatever country you're from, or you in a parkland in the middle of a city, or wherever it is, there's no substitute for actually just spending time with something. So, I mean, Tristan and the other lads down in the Lowveld are doing a brilliant job with spending time with those animals. So please repeat that question, Claire. There was a question. Claire, yeah, that's a valid comment. Monkey cats, yeah. I mean, their antics, the agility, you know, the way they interact in terms of a social group. Yeah, so monkey cats is, yeah, again, that's actually not a bad way of looking at it at all. It's probably very, very apt. Chandra, if you can maybe go to the left, there's one doing yoga. We've just got a meerkat busy doing yoga. Look at that. It's the upward meerkat maneuver. And he's finished. He's going to get some sun now. So I think let's head over to Rowan down in the Lowveld. They've got a good sighting down there.
We've got a whole family of warthogs that are surprisingly not running away from us. So we thought it was quite a special occasion. I mean, it's so hard to actually show you warthogs because we get them on camera and then they turn and run away. Quite like one of the youngsters is doing on the left there. But it's, if you ever see how they go, I must have jinxed it. They've probably heard me. How many is it? So there's 7 of them, and 3 of them are adults with 4 youngsters. And it looks like it's probably a group of females that have joined up together with a male in between. And the biggest one right in the middle there is the male, with all of the youngsters behind. It's really quite cool to see them because, I mean, they often just dash into the bushes. They seem to be keeping a very close eye on us, and that's why we've just given them as much distance as we can, so they can just hopefully relax around us and not be too bothered by us. But I'm sure they're very happy to know that, well, I suppose they don't really know, but I mean, the lions have moved off. We're pretty much exactly where they were this morning, and they've moved down into the river in the opposite direction of where these warthogs are. There we go. And that's pretty much what we see of warthogs 9 times out of 10. But amazing, as soon as one reacts, they all go. And I'm sure they headed all in exactly the same direction. I'm sure within those trees, somewhere along there, there's bound to be a couple of burrows that they will consider their safe havens. And so the first line of defense is just to try and get into that burrow. So they'll run straight down into it. The youngsters would, and then if the females have time, they'll probably try and reverse into it. So their hard heads and their sharp tusks are facing outwards. And I guess they've just, I mean, it's warmed up nicely now, so they probably also spent a few moments trying to warm up and walking in these open areas looking for something to eat. Some grass, some roots. Kat, is you asking how intelligent warthogs are? It's a question that I don't think I've really thought of too much. I don't think, it might be mean, but I don't think they look very intelligent, or they behave very intelligently if we compare them to some of the animals like elephants and hyenas, who many people consider have got a very high intelligence. So I wouldn't think that they'll be very intelligent at all. Maybe I just need to get to know them a bit better. But just the way that they behave, they have to be very nervous naturally. Otherwise, if they become too casual, then they just will get caught by leopards or lions or even hyenas. So they need to be constantly alert and on their toes. And so I'm sure a lot of their energy will be to keep themselves alive rather than actually improving their intelligence as they've evolved. So I'm sure most of it would be trying to keep alive. Yeah, so whilst the warthogs have disappeared into the bushes, I think we're going to continue on, and it's nice and warm now, so we're probably going to head down towards a water hole and see what's around there. But we'll send you back to Tswalu Kalahari, and Dylan is still with the meerkats there.
So from warthogs to Timon. Yandra and I are just loving being out here with these little guys. So yes, it's just incredible to sit and watch them like this. And in terms of distance here, I mean, we're sitting, excuse me, we're sitting 5-6 yards away from them. They just completely relaxed with our presence. There was an interesting question earlier about in the low felt there about are warthogs intelligent? And if you look at the meerkats in it, one of the things that researchers look at when you questioning animal intelligence is the degree of play behavior, and play behavior that's not directly or not necessarily linked to survival strategies. In other words, lions running around, lion cubs tackling one another, hanging on one another's neck, stalking one another. That's all linked to directly to a survival mechanism, being able to stalk and catch prey animals. But if you look at things like primates and look at these meerkats, a lot of these things engage in play behavior which in many regards becomes difficult to defend as a direct link to a behavior that's going to enable them to survive in terms of like foraging or fighting and that kind of stuff. And it may be that so the theory there is that animals that exhibit a large degree of play behavior, there may be a more important social aspect to that. In other words, it's not saying, well, if I learn to stalk and catch something, or one of my siblings, I'll be better equipped to stalk and catch a prey item later when I'm an adult. But the play behavior that's not linked to things like that could be saying, well, actually the play behavior is more important maybe for social bonding, and having a clear understanding of a hierarchy within a group. And that becomes quite an interesting thing to debate, in terms of intelligence, because it would imply that there's some kind of understanding of how you fit into a group, and if you do something, it can enable you to get something else. So it's it's a very good question that about intelligence, and also what do we define as intelligence as individuals? For us to say, well, a warthog's not intelligent, or it's more or less intelligent than a lion, or a lion's more or less intelligent than a meerkat, or a meerkat's more intelligent than a cichlid fish living in Lake Malawi. What are we basing that on? I think in a nutshell, we've got so much to learn about nature, and the research that guys are doing on Tswalu, just everything that you learn, everything that you learned through the research just actually highlights how little we know about these systems. The thing that I always wonder about is these incredible examples in nature where, like tool use in nature. There's obviously like well-known examples like chimpanzees, using blades of grass to take out termites or get things out of, holes in logs for feeding. And there's a lot of things like it, but there's a bird that occurs occasionally on Tswalu. We don't see it regularly, but called the green-backed heron. And green-backed herons are one of the birds that actually uses a tool. So they'll actually, when they're hunting fish, they'll actually pick up a leaf or a small piece of bark or something that floats, and they will drop it just upstream of themselves. They'll pick it up in the beak, drop it upstream, and then sit quietly, and just as that thing floats past them, pick it up and then drop it again. And they'll keep doing that, and eventually something like a little fish will actually come up to investigate, and that's when the heron catches it. How on earth do herons learn to do that? You know, is it trial and error? You know, however that comes about, that's a extreme degree of intelligence there. And crows are a very, very good example, a well-known example of the corvids, and that was corvid, I said, or a super intelligent group of birds. But we can discuss that further. You know, while I'm contemplating intelligence and while I'm lying down on a freezing cold patch of sand, head over to Tristan and follow up on what they got that side.
We are indeed, Dylan. We are fortunate. We are in a much warmer part of the world, and you can see there's some ellies that are just drifting away. We have the most magical scene. I was tracking this leopard, and I'm pretty sure it's Shadulu because it's going towards Treehouse Dam, and we came along and we found ellies, but not only ellies, but also some buffalo to our right coming down to drink. Isn't it nice to see? Beautiful sighting of these guys. I'm actually going to keep quiet because the audio of these is really, really nice, and it's pretty at this little spot, and you can hear them kind of wading around, so rather listen to them than my monotone voice. So I was kind of hoping when we came down here and we first spotted the elephants and the buffalo that we were going to find this leopard with them. Can you imagine if we had had leopard, elephant and buffalo all at the same waterhole? That would have been quite something. But those kind of things are going to happen now. As we start to get into this winter and we start to see things starting to dry out, you're going to start seeing a lot more of these kind of interactions where you have a lot of animals all down at the same water points, particularly because there's these big water holes like Treehouse and Twin Dams and Gowrie Dam and Buffelshoek Dam. They're going to hold water for a long time during this winter, and it's going to be the perfect places for herds of buffalo like this to come and drink, and that's going to attract obviously lions that are going to follow them, and so we should get some really nice sightings through the course of this winter. It should be a good time, that's for sure. And it's nice to see Treehouse Dam productive. Treehouse Dam has been a little on the quiet side over the course of the last year. It was dry and then it filled up, but there was so much other water around that you just haven't seen the same number of animals using it as normal. This has always been a very productive area for us, and we used to have a lot of sightings of leopard particularly at this waterhole, but a lot of elephants as well. And like I say, when it dried up, the area just became a bit dead. But now we've got water and it's drying, everywhere else is drying. This is becoming a really great spot once again. And like I say, to see buffalo here in small herds coming to drink is really, really nice. It's a place where, you know, there's a lot of space for them to drink, and you've got space for the ellies to come and drink, and like I say, leopards and all kinds of other things as well. Now, I was saying that it's going to be a productive area over the course of the next few months. I suspect this is going to be one of our sort of more favored waterholes as the winter progresses. But of course, if we are to show you all of this during the course of the winter, we're going to need your support in being able to carry on with our broadcasts. It's obviously something that costs money, and it's not easy to kind of put together, and so it would be greatly appreciated if you guys would support us. And then, like I say, you can see what plays out at Treehouse Dam and see all the different animals that hopefully will be seen in this area. But don't you love how these buffalo have waded themselves to their chest? And we're talking about being freezing and that it's cold and miserable. That doesn't stop a buffalo. Buffalo's like, I'm going to wade in all the way to my chest, get some nice clean water. You see some of the fish jumping. Look, do you see them?
as the buffalo are moving, just look, every now and then there's little fish that are coming out and skipping across the surface. That was cool. I don't know if anyone caught that, but there was some. I would also be terrified if I was a fish. Certainly don't want to be trodden on by a whole bunch of hoofed, big, beefy buffalo. They don't look as though they're in any sort of hurry, which means I don't think there's lions trailing them. But the tracks for that leopard come pretty much to this area. I saw them just on the northern side of this dam, and then we spotted buffalo and elephants, and so I kind of missed them. But it's going to be a bit tricky now because the elephants have walked all over this place, and so have the buffalo, and so trying to find where she goes from here is not going to be that easy. But I'm pretty sure, like I say, that this is Shidulu or her daughter. The route that she's taken all the way from Simambili down Vuyatela access, across quarantine, down along Mccullough and down to Treehouse Dam, that's kind of Shidulu's modus operandi. Okay, elephants. Now. Isn't this cool? Can you hear elephants trumping? Elephants, blah, 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 blah. So I don't know what's going on. I can't speak, but elephants, there we go. Got it out eventually. You know, trumpeting. We've got the nice sounds for the buffalo swimming. And yeah, me trying very desperately to speak English and failing miserably. I am done for the morning. I think it's enough. My body is like, enough talking, done, finished. Anyway, sorry about that, everybody. Don't know what happened there. Anyway, it happens. Talking for multiple hours of the day, generally, there's a slip-up about to happen at some point. Yes, I do need to be rebooted, Emma. I've run out of tea this morning. It's cold. Yeah, Megan, I've been attacked by gremlins today. I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm going into glitch mode, or the Matrix. I've been plugged from the Matrix. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, it happens. Like I say, doing 6 hours of live safaris a day, there's bound to be a glitch at some point. Especially the older you get and the grayer hairs that you have, glitches become far more common, which is okay. It's fine. You guys will all forgive me, I'm sure. And if you don't, well, there's not much I can do about it anyway. Buffalo, are you not cold? This water must be freezing. They don't seem too perturbed, do they? Especially that one. That one is like all the way in. You see it there, Alex, the one on the left. It's ridiculous. They're just having a fine old time swimming around in the cold winter morning. Crazy. Anyway, I'm going to sit here, we're going to listen out, maybe we get an alarm call, maybe the leopard even shows up, and while we do that, let's send you across to David. I think he's made his way back onto Juma, and I'm hoping he's going to have some luck.
Just stopped here with a lovely little group of Inyala. Nice big bull. Females and young. Just stopped here with some.
You're good.
Sorry there for the breakup. Just stopped with some Inyala. Where did that big bull go? There was a lovely bull there at the back. But there are some females and youngsters. Just soaking in the morning light. It's still very chilly this morning. I'm also quite shocked that all those buffalo are into Treehouse Dam. That sounds very cold. Patsy said they're looking so fluffy you thought they were waterbuck. They do have nice coats. Maybe they're a bit ruffled because of the cold. Love those little bushy tails. And those beautiful white stripes. Ever so cautious, always listening. With those huge ears. Imagine how well they can hear. with those ears, they must really pick up every little movement, every little noise. Any twig snapping or rustling in the grass will not go unnoticed. Trish, she's saying, shame they're just trying to warm up. I think that's why they're moving from sunny patch to sunny patch. Although with that nice coat of hair, I'm sure they're doing okay. We are in a cold front though, it's a lot colder than normal. BK and I are moving very stiffly this morning. Ken, you say it's snowing in some places in South Africa, apparently. I have heard that. So to get snow in South Africa, you know it's cold. I was speaking to my friend in the Vrystaat in the States, Free State, PJ. He was telling me it's very cold. So cold he had to put on 2 pairs of short pants this morning. Sounds like buffalo are still acting very interesting there in the water. Let's send you over to Tristan and see what they're up to.
No, not at all. And yes, those boys in the Free State will not wear long pants. So when it's cold, it's 2 pairs of shorts rather than a pair of long pants. I am afraid I'm not one of those guys. There's certain guides that do it too. They have this thing about not wearing long pants ever, and I just don't understand why you want to be cold. It doesn't really work for me. So I'm not one of those. I like to wear long pants if it's cold. There's a reason they were invented. You know, why would you want to suffer unnecessarily? Anyway, we came down a little bit lower just to have a look at this buffalo bull. All the buffalo ran for some random reason. They decided to run into the thickets, and I have no idea why. So this is just some of the bulls that are drinking. There's no sign of lions around here. I don't see a leopard anywhere. I don't see anything that would have triggered it, but sometimes buffalo can be a little bit kind of testy around water, any sort of breeze or anything, and they get a little bit sort of nervy and they can run off. So we're just waiting for them to come back again. I'm sure they will. And hopefully they'll line up next to this particular buffalo over here. Now, Emma, you can't generalize just boys, because I've seen female guides the exact same that are shorts or nothing, and they wear their shorts in the coldest winter mornings, and I just never understand why. It seems ridiculous to me. Yes, no, I agree with you. 1 pair, not 2. That I agree with, but, you know, the Free State is a special place, so these things happen there. I'm joking. Yes, exactly. We wouldn't want to offend anyone. Tiger, would a crocodile take a buffalo if there were to be a crocodile in this dam? No, not adult buffalo, no. These big boys like this, there's no crocs that are going to really attempt that. I mean, I suppose it would be possible for a really large crocodile to grab a buffalo, but it would have to be an immensely big crocodile, and it would have to be a very old, very sick buffalo to get that right. These healthy males that you see here, I doubt would get even remotely kind of in danger when it comes to crocodiles. But little buffalo, different story. Crocodiles could grab those little ones very, very easily and take them down. So you have to be a bit careful if you're a baby buffalo. But if you're a big, strong bull buffalo like this, then no, you don't need to worry as much. Crocodiles would have to be rather greedy if they were to try, and probably would get taught a bit of a lesson. An angry buffalo is no joke. In saying that, though, I mean, we've seen crocodiles grab elephants by the trunk, and so, that's never a great idea to do. and so it does happen that they go after large creatures, but a buffalo, I've never, ever seen a crocodile go after a big bull buffalo. Like I said, babies, yes, cows to a degree, but never these big dugger boys that you see here. Like I said, I think they're just too big, strong, and angry. Exactly, that's exactly what's going to happen, Emma. There's going to, out of nowhere, be a crocodile now. It's going to launch itself and grab this buffalo by the head and pull it into the treehouse dam, and I'm going to be proven wrong. And go. No, didn't happen. But imagine if it did. That would have been crazy. It's a typical thing that does happen to us guides when we say that won't happen, and then it does. But it's luckily these buffalo have not been attacked by a crocodile, and my name has been saved. Anyway, all right. These buffalo are slowly drifting off. The elephants have also drifted, so I might just do a loop around them and see if I can spot any sign of something moving around these guys, whether it be that leopard track or lions. And while I do that, let's send you back to the ever cute Meerkats with Dylan in Tswalu Kalahari.
So this meerkat group, the horses, they've actually just moved off foraging. So we can't follow them at the moment. But what they've done, and hopefully she'll pop up a little bit later, the mom has actually stayed behind. So she'll act as a babysitter for the next couple of weeks. And that can actually alternate between different members of the group. But she's actually just gone down into one of the burrows. But hopefully she'll pop up later. And what we want to do, we actually want to try to give you some idea of the scale of this landscape, and with this tiny little meerkat in it, just like, wow, now I'm here looking after these pups, and this is what I'm up against, this world that I'm up against here. It's going to be very, very special, but we'll just give it some time, and I'm just going to move back a little bit. Oh, there she's out, there she's out, there she's out. I'm just going to move back, and then you can get an idea of the size and the expanse of the area that the burrows are in. Look at that, and she'll be super, super, super sharp now. If she's very lucky, if a predator had her approach, if she was very lucky, the others would still be close enough to hear her giving alarm calls. And if they heard that, they would all come running back. But obviously that would depend on how far away they've moved, foraging. It would depend on the direction of the wind. And if it's actually blowing the sound of her alarm calls towards where they are or away. This is obviously like so cool now, because now the big wait to see actually how many pups are going to come out there eventually. So we'll follow this group nice and closely over the coming weeks. Net, these landscapes are certainly gorgeous. Absolutely sublime. And just they change every single day. And, depending on the condition of the light, it's beautiful. Nana, meerkat groups can fight over territory. There's quite a bit of an overlap between them. So if the habitat quality is like really good, in other words, you've had good rain and there's lots of food around, there's an abundance, the chance of those meerkats having serious conflict is reduced. Obviously they won't need to forage as far then, but if resources become limited, so food is like hard to come by in that, and their territories expand a little bit, then they're more likely to come into conflict with other meerkat groups, and they can fight and occasionally actually kill each other, although that is fairly unusual. I mean, they do this incredible thing that we call the war dance, and you get two different the opposing groups, and they all bunch together, the two different groups on opposite, and then they jump towards with these high leaping bounds, tails in the air, heads down, making these growling noises and snarling the whole time, and that you tend to find the larger group ends up intimidating the other group, and then they move off. The problem really develops when you got two very equally matched colonies or group sizes. Then it can become, then the level of conflict can get elevated. But generally, most animals out there will actually avoid conflict where they can, and they'll actually resort rather to scent marking, physical demonstrations without actually coming into contact with one another. So the visual and scent aspect is very, very important for maintaining territorial boundaries. But so the rest of the group has gone off foraging. We're just going to stick around with this female to see what she does. Not expecting too much activity from now on. So in the meantime, I think head over to Eric and Ngala and see what they've got.
Welcome back, everyone. We have obviously left those lions, left the warthogs, and I mentioned that we were going to go and check a waterhole. We went past the waterhole and there wasn't too much going on there, so we decided to carry on going. And Owen and I thought it might be quite a nice idea for us to start working our way back into the area of where we heard that leopard rasping a little bit earlier on this morning. Just to see if we can find any tracks or signs and to see whether we can figure out which direction they headed off towards. And I mean, we heard it in the distance, so we couldn't quite hear it properly, so I'm not sure if it's a male or a female, but it could have been that female that you saw with Nikki last night, who was on the carcass, or it could be the dominant male in the area. So it would be nice just to find some leopard tracks close to the river, which is now on the right of us, and just figure out where they might have gone on towards. And if we don't find them now, we can at least pick up on the tracks and follow them this afternoon. Sounds like it's been an exceptional morning on all three reserves. Tswalu's delivered with the meerkats again, Juma with the leopards and the small little hippo, and then Ngala with the lions. So we've had such an amazing, well-rounded day today. It's been really cool. I still want to try and find a bird that I've been desperately trying to show everyone for the last month and a half. And if you've been around, I mean, I've been mentioning the orange-breasted or the grey-headed bushrikes. And it's a very difficult challenge to get them onto camera because they're a secretive bird and they move quickly. So you have to hear them calling, and I mean, they often just move away from camera. And so if we do hear them, hopefully I'll be able to show you one in the next year or so if we get lucky. I suppose what's helping us a little bit at the moment is all of these leaves changing color and turning that orange and dropping down. And we've even noticed it up in the Mapanis in the northern part of the reserve. And the Mapani tends to be one of the trees that starts turning last. But it's getting more and more yellow. It's almost like there's a couple of trees that are completely orange at this stage. Looks like it's just zebra tracks. Very different to a leopard track. Hopefully. Thank you for believing in me, but I'm up for the challenge. It's funny, Nikki and I were talking and we're both pretty competitive. I don't know why I'm competitive against Nikki because I'll always lose. But he was saying now what he wants to find is a southern ground hornbill. And I said, okay, cool, yeah, I accept that challenge. I'll go for the bushrike still. The very next morning, I see this image of a ground hornbill in the mist calling with the sunrise behind it. And so I was just like, how do I win against this guy? I'm going to have to contract some sort of mechanical something to try and beat the stove that he had yesterday. Ooh. Okay, so Emma's just giving us a mouthful because none of us has found her lilac-breasted roller, and so we'll go across to Dave so he can apologize to Emma in person.
going on to Hoyatela.
Well, we have seen a couple Island-breasted rollers since, but haven't managed to get one on camera. But we will keep on trying. But the grey-headed bushshrike could be a challenge. We are in the right place for it though here in the Moati riverbed. We just stopped to look at this interesting tree. It's a Tamboti tree. That's about to fall over. I think it'll still hold on for some time. It's difficult to see at this angle, but the bank is eroding away. And as BK was showing there, the roots are becoming more and more exposed, so it's starting to tilt. As with any drainage lines, they are constantly eroding, growing larger, and as they cut away at the sides of these banks as the water rushes down, we start seeing these roots exposed. It's interesting to be able to see these roots like this. It's like a cross-section of root. Very cool to see. But I don't think this tree will stand too many more seasons before it falls over. Although it should still continue to grow, it's just going to be lying down and has to kind of change the way it grows. Andrea, you've commented that this is an amazing root system. It is cool to see, hey? And it goes down a lot further than that. We're just seeing a bit of it. Very interesting. This tree is also very well known for the toxins in its leaves that makes it quite dangerous for humans. Humans wouldn't want to get this in their eye or ingest it. You most certainly wouldn't want to make a fire with it. The smoke from the fire would make you quite ill, or if you cook any food or meat on it, it would make you quite ill for eating it, because those toxins in the smoke will get into your food. This is one of the first important trees that you learn growing up out here. You learn not to pick up sticks from under these trees if you are camping and you need to make a fire. But interestingly, a lot of animals don't mind them. Black rhino, giraffe, porcupine, they love tambotis. They seem to be unaffected by the toxins. Let me see if I can quickly show you what I mean. I'm going to just quickly hop off the vehicle here and see if I can get a leaf. I'm scared if I climb up that tree to get a leaf, it's going to fall on BK. There's another tree over here that's a little grove of tambotis. I'll be able to get it. There you go. So this is kind of your telltale sign of a tamboti. If you zoom in on that, you'll see the white latex in the leaf. So if you're ever unsure, you just pick a leaf. You see a little bit of white latex coming out of the stem. And that is kind of your telltale sign. I'll put some on my finger there and you can see it better. Pretty much anything in the bush with white latex in it is something you want to stay away from. There are some plants with white latex that are completely edible, but rather stay away if you're not sure. Well, we're going to carry on down the riverbed. Let's send you over to Dylan and see what he's up to.
You can do a little segment on this devil's thorn as well. So the little meerkat female has actually gone down the burrow, so she's completely out of sight at the moment. But we're just going to sit quietly and see what we can get. But while we were standing here, I felt something under my shoe, and it's a nice example of a devil's thorn seed pod. A nice dried one. We looked at some the other day that were still on the vine and still green. But I mean, just look at those sharp points on there. That's razor sharp, eh? And so that actually got stuck under my shoe, and so what'll happen? The seeds are actually encased inside there, and so if I didn't know that it was there, and I walked and I walked and I walked, eventually this would wear off, and the seeds would fall out. Very cool design for seed dispersal. Very effective, very, very effective. She's out again. She's just popped out of burrow. It certainly does, Zero. I mean, yeah. It also looks like a, yeah, it looks like a frog with two horns on top. So what this female does, she goes down every now and again, just checks that the pup's okay, and then comes out again, pops down, comes out again, suns herself, keeps an eye out for danger. So if she goes down the boat, it's not because we hear there's any disturbance. In fact, you can actually just see she's completely relaxed with our presence, and most of the time just ignores us except for the occasional glance. So she'll be on the lookout for raptors. She'll be listening for alarm calls, so she's not using visual clues to pick up danger, but also audio clues. So while she's doing her thing, let's head back to Tristan.
We are with mongoose, and it's such a cool thing because it's such a nice sort of compliment to the meerkats to see the difference between the two. I mean, our dwarf mongoose are like the meerkats for Tswalu, and they have obviously those guys there, and we have our little dwarfies that hang around here. And this particular grouping is one of the most relaxed groupings that we have. Now, I want to try and see, I'm not sure Alex is going to be able to see it. Alex, can you see the fork-tailed drongo in behind them? I don't know if you can. It's tricky. It's just in behind this little lot, but there's a fork-tailed drongo following them. Now, here in this particular part of the world, the fork-tailed drongos are very spoiled because they have elephants and buffalo and all kinds of other things that disturb insects, and they can follow them along to find food. But in the Kalahari, often these guys follow the meerkats because the meerkats find food for them, and they're able to then steal it, and they'll actually mimic their alarm call in order to get the meerkat to drop the food and go into the hole, and then the drongo can swoop down and grab it. And they do the same thing with these mongoose. It's not as common to see, but they do. And so I'm hoping the drongo is going to come out a little bit, and I'll be able to show you. But what it does is it sits and it just watches, and it flies along as the little grouping of mongoose is looking for food and finding its way and kind of going and foraging. And as soon as it sees something that it wants, then it makes that call, and all the mongoose scatter, and then it comes down and grabs what it wants, which is pretty amazing. But this is the really relaxed group of them that we see on Triple M. I mean, if you want to have really epic mongoose viewing, this is where you come. These guys are, as you can see, uber relaxed. They literally right next to the car within a meter, and they just don't care. You can sit here for long periods of time with them, and they kind of take it easy. We should actually spend more time with these guys. It'd be cool to start to get to know them a little bit better, and to see all of the little ones grow up and move around. There's two little babies that are actually coming our way now. They're not tiny babies, but they are much smaller than the others. There they come. Hey, little guys. Isn't this cute? There's no space for all of you on this. Can you hear them? Unfortunately, it sounds like a car is coming, which means that these guys might scatter. So Aisha, types of mongoose that we have here in this particular reserve. So we've got dwarf, white-tailed, mellors, Tswalu, banded. I'm trying to think of the other one. That's five of them. I might have missed one, but it's 5 that we see in this area at the moment. It's not a huge amount, but it's still quite diverse. And some of them are really beautiful looking ones. Some of them are very rare. The Tswalu mongoose we don't see at all very often. There's only one sighting that I know of that was at the dam camp. And then Mellors is actually a lot more common here than we see. But the ones that we typically view regularly would be these dwarf mongoose and white-tailed mongoose. Even the bandits in this area are quite shy. Don't see them that often, but they are definitely around. And slender mongoose. Yes, Alex, well done. I knew there was one that I was forgetting, so 6. Well done, Alex. Alex is reminding me of the various mongoose, the species that we have here. Cute though, aren't they? Alright, we're gonna probably have to move for a car that wants to come here. We're blocking the whole main road, so we'll have to get out of the way to allow these guys to come past us, so that we can kind of carry on, and we'll leave our mongoose to their foraging, and hopefully the drongo doesn't dupe them into stealing their food. In the meantime, though, let's send you across to the meerkats, who, well, are very similar in their behavior, and I wonder if Dylan's got any cool stories about drongos stealing meerkat food in their area.
So this meerkat has gone down the burrow again, and she'll just do this constantly throughout the day. She just popped out again. The direction she's facing now is actually where the group went foraging. It's quite a big responsibility if you think about it, eh? Flat cat, Melanie would be in absolutely no danger whatsoever if we left her behind. We don't intend leaving her behind, but if we did, there would be no danger whatsoever to Melanie from those meerkats. They won't feed on these. To my knowledge, again, I just need to say that, sometimes we go and say, oh, lions won't do this, or meerkats won't do that, and then you just get this curveball and suddenly you find a meerkat eating a melon. So when we're talking about animal behavior, we'll generally talk about like the standard accepted range of behavior, or at least studied behavior, observed behavior. But there's always something new that can crop up. I think every single day that I spend in the outdoors, I can see something new. So we think Melanie should be safe, but I wouldn't go out on a limb and say there's absolutely no chance ever of a meerkat ever eating a melon. It could happen. See that lovely sunlight in her eyes. Not in Melanie's, in the meerkat's eyes. And Melanie's, I guess. Look at the length of the claws on that meerkat's front feet, eh? And that's why they're so adept at digging for scorpions and whatever they're feeding on. They'll be doing a lot of digging to get that food. And those claws are just perfectly adapted for that. Tiny little ears, eh? And it's really good seeing their claws close up like that. And I think with someone like Yandro with us, he's really doing it justice in terms of like the close up and being able to understand not just the behavior but also the anatomy of these animals, and not just meerkats, anything that we're looking at. He actually handed me the camera earlier, and what I was seeing is holding that camera, just how difficult it is to keep a steady hand It takes a lot of skill behind the camera to get that, so we can all appreciate that. Thanks, Jandre. But I think let's head back to Ngala. I think the gents down there have got something interesting to show you.
We come out into these nice big open areas just to see what we could find, and we just managed to see this young giraffe who's literally, as we speak, gone behind some bushes. We are watching from a distance, and it is moving around a lot, but it is very cute. The mother's just to the left of it in these dense knobthorn thickets feeding around. So we have been getting brief visuals of this small little one, but it's been a bit of a tricky view. It's just really cool to see such a young giraffe, and they always look at you so inquisitively. You can see the mother is coming over now. Crackle of the branches every now and again. I was trying to figure out how old this youngster was, because I mean it's got that very cool hairstyle where the ossicones haven't really set into the skull properly yet, and so they grow at quite a skew angle, and this one's literally growing like out. There you go. So there's the mom coming into view now. See, I think a bit more left. Yeah, there you go. And look how she's just watching us, and she realizes that youngster is quite at quite a high risk, and so she's just making sure that we're not posing a threat to her youngster. And by stopping and watching us, she gets to figure out what we're doing. She'll realize that we're at quite a distance away, we're not really posing too much of a threat, so she'll hopefully carry on doing what she's doing. And the small little one is just to the right of her. No, it's still behind the same bush. See, she's dropping her head down, I think feeding on a pushed over knobthorn. Apparently a few viewers are saying that they look so intense when they're staring at us. Yeah, they've got such a blank expression on their faces. I wonder what goes through their mind when they stop it. There we go, there's the youngster. It's coming down for a drink. Oh, mother's not really in the mood to have it suckling. Just see the back of its fluffy or ossicles. I'd love for it to turn around just so we can see its face, but the mother is starting to come over towards us, so maybe the youngster will follow. And so what we'll do as it's walking, it looks like it might be feeding already, so it's probably a bit older than I thought it was. But if we get the chance, we'll try and look underneath its belly and see if we can still see the umbilical cord attached. And that umbilical cord will probably be about 15 centimeters in length when it's brand newborn, and then it just dries up and starts dehydrating until eventually it will fall off, and that will happen usually between 6 to 8 weeks old. And so if it doesn't have an umbilical cord, it's probably over 2 months, and then we'll just have to try and see the size of the umbilical cord. But obviously it's not playing ball with us today, it's just in the bushes there. Adele, I'm glad I got to show you your favorite baby animal. I think they've also got such a characteristic look to them. They're very, very funny. I don't know if you've ever seen it before, but sometimes they just get this sudden burst of energy and they'll start running around. And it's always so awkward because they've got these long, lanky legs, and they just look so awkward sprinting in different directions around the mother. The tail of it swishing every now and again. Lost sight of the mother, but it wouldn't be too far off. Now, once the little one gets older and can start moving around a bit more, it will join up with a few other females that have got youngsters, and so they'll almost take turns. And so a few of them might leave whilst one will look after the youngsters, and then the adults might go towards a waterhole to drink, or maybe just increase their browsing area, and then they'll almost take it in turns like that. And they rotate out. There we go, I think it's going to come now. So we'll have literally a split-second view, and it's still got its umbilical cord. You can see it's still got that little umbilical cord. It's quite hard to see, I'm looking through binoculars, and it's maybe about 10 centimeters long, and so I would put it at roughly maybe 5 or 6 weeks old. So really nice to see that. Now that it's disappeared into the bushes, I think we'll more than likely say our last goodbyes unless we see something spectacular, and we'll catch up with you in the afternoon. But in the meantime, let's go across to Djuma, where Tristan is waiting to say his last goodbyes.
It's been quite as good as yours from a kind of activity point of view. It seems like the lions were super active, which is always a nice thing because lions aren't always that active. But I will say from a sightings point of view, we've done sterlingly well. We had Kalamba, obviously, we had eddies, buffalo, the dwarf mongoose. It's been very, very pleasant, and we haven't had to drive fast anywhere, which means that we've stayed nice and warm. So that's always a good thing. Unfortunately, the tracks for that leopardess that we were following has gone out the southern side. So from those buffalo, we picked up the tracks on the other side, and then they just cut out into little Gary Hoffman's cut line. So she's gone south there, unfortunately. But it was still nice just to follow those tracks down, see where they're moving, and kind of find those buffalo and the ellies, that's for sure. So we're now just slowly limping our way home. It's breakfast time, and kind of just scanning around, seeing if we can pick up anything for Tingana coming this way. There's no tracks that I can see coming west from Quarantine, so I'm hoping he's still somewhere around the Mulawati, taking it easy, because he doesn't look like he crossed out north either. So that's a good plan for the afternoon, is to get back onto those tracks and figure out if we can find the old Duke, spend some time with him. But him and Tundi are the last two that I really want to see, more than any of the others. So I've got to try and find the two of them and focus on them. Tundi wasn't found this morning, and so we still don't know exactly where she went and whether or not she's moving around. So we'll have to try this afternoon for our two Ts. I think that's the plan. It'd be good if we can find either one of them. Exactly, got to go through the leopard checklist, Emma. Got to have all of them. Maybe we can, imagine we find the 2 Ts today, then we would have had all 3 Ts during the last 24 hours. Mrs. Zero, you were saying you would love to see Tingy. I think you and many, many, many others, a lot of people have been saying, asking where's Tingana. Hopefully we find Tingana, so I think you and many, many others, I certainly would love to see him. His days, I'm afraid, are going to start getting closer and closer to the end. I know it's a horrible thing to say, and it's not something we should say in many respects, but it's the truth. He is getting older, and there's not much we can do about that. It happens to us all. And so, any time you can spend with him is going to be quality time now. He's still fit and healthy and big and strong, but we know how quickly male leopards can turn when they are getting older. I mean, if you look at Mvula, you look at Campan, these guys go from looking really good to skinny, and even Tingana himself at one point had that happen to him, where he was perfectly healthy and then all of a sudden he was just skin and bone and not doing well. So there's always a worry when you have older animals, and so you want to try and spend some time, particularly because I don't know when I'll be back next. I'm not sure with kind of time frames as to when I'll be back on air and driving around Djuma. And so, you always want to make sure that you spend time with those cats that have given you so much and have, shaped your life in some respects. And so, yeah, definitely try and see if we can find him and spend as much time as I can with him over the course of the next coming days. It is a bit sad, isn't it, Emma? I just want to quickly check the middle road of Quarantine just to see if he didn't walk there. But sometimes he goes past the dam and then he comes up this middle road and then to the western side of Quarantine. So I want to just quickly go and check there and see if he maybe went that way. In the meantime, though, David is also out and about. Apparently he stopped for something, but they've missed it, so I'm not sure what's going on. Let's send you across to him.
Welcome back. BK and I are just laughing because we got charged by a squirrel. And the squirrel looked super serious until it got close and then it ran off into the bush. I think it lost its nerve. We are still on Central here, on Mfubu right now. We picked up on Tingana's tracks. Same tracks from this morning. Just followed them a little bit further. He went down to the dam. I can't see if he drank there, but he's carried on in this direction off the road, so maybe in one of the blocks here. I know there's not too much time left, but it's definitely worth driving slowly in this region, keeping our eyes open. Like Tristan said, it would be super cool to see Tingana. But it has been an epic morning so far. As Tristan said, what a jam-packed morning. Doesn't get much better than that out here in the bush. Everything is a privilege to see out here, but some mornings it just all happens. Adele, did you ask if the squirrel had Napoleon syndrome? Must have. That's very funny. It's actually, squirrels are one of the hardest things to frame because every time you stop and look at it, they like just sit there in the road, do nothing, and then you stop and look at it and it runs away. This one just ran towards us, so it really looked like it was charging. It was very funny. Well, it's eventually getting a bit warmer. The sun's doing its part. Hopefully not cold enough this afternoon for where we have to put on 2 pairs of slops. I know that's what I've been told I might have to do. I don't know how I would get that right. Maybe if it gets bad enough, I'd have to do the unthinkable and wear socks with my slops. Could you believe it? Nah, we'll play it cool. No socks with the slops for me. We're gonna carry on through this dip slowly, through the drainage line, see if we get lucky with our beautiful Tingana. While we do that, let's send you back over to Tristan, see what he's up to.
Indeed, we haven't found any sign of Tingana on this middle road. I was hoping that he would be around here. I was just looking where this leopard that went south, which I'm pretty sure is Shadulu, was scent marking. It's quite interesting because this is Kalamba's little area around here, so I'm surprised that, you know, there would be another leopard moving through, but it's definitely not her that came up here. This track is bigger, and like I say, it comes all the way from Simamili through and then out down there, and we know that Kalamba was here, so it's not her that's made that track, but maybe Tingana was around just to see what these leopardesses were up to. Just kind of been scratching just to see if his tracks are here, but no sign. Maybe we must check Tumbeta's waterhole this afternoon, see if maybe he drank there. Maybe that's why we didn't see him on the dam cameras. He came up the hill and drank there and then kind of moved around somewhere in this general vicinity. Yeah, mystery to decode this afternoon. Hello, Impalas. Did you see Tingana? No, you don't seem to have seen anything. You guys look as though you are quite unperturbed by anything this morning. Yeah, it's quite rude that you didn't even say good morning, Impalas. And now you're running. Yes, you must run away. Very rude. No, they didn't get their coffee. Anyway, it's that time where we're going to say goodbye. Hopefully you all enjoyed a wonderful morning of all kinds of amazing things from Tswalu Kalahari and beyond in Ngala and Djuma here in the Greater Kruger. It's been absolutely amazing, and it was a pleasure to have you all on board. We'll see you this afternoon for our sunset safari.